Yo guys, what up and welcome to another build video. I am so excited to show you this. This is one of my favorite builds, probably the favorite build that I've ever played in Baldur's Gate 3. You can call it the Ice Paladin, really whatever the heck you want to call it. Basically, you're a Gish that gets to cast a bunch of spells, do a ton of damage in melee, and then you've got a Ray of Frost that also deals like 60 damage, so you don't even ever want to cast your level 2 spells or level 3 spells because you can just Ray of Frost for a billion damage. It's super fun. I hope you guys enjoy it. As always, don't forget to leave a couple comments on anything you think I did wrong or anything you did better with this build. And finally, don't forget to like and subscribe. Hope you enjoyed the video. Alright, so let's dive into which race will be good for this build. The Ice Paladin does really well as any of the races because we've got all of our proficiencies and bonuses covered in our build itself, so you're not required to take human or Githyanki in order to get the proficiencies that you need. Now they will help you out. It's really nice to be able to be a human, put that shield on level 1 and run around with it. That being said, the elf is a really good option. You get dark vision for the elf and a good movement speed. Same thing with Tiefling, and Tiefling additionally also gets the hellish resistance, which gives you fire resistance. A lot of enemies in this game deal fire damage. It's a really good choice. Drow is another very good option. I'm a big fan of Drow. I run it all the time. I feel like there's a lot of cool interactions in the game as you're playing the Drow. On top of that, you also have a better dark vision. You also have advantage on saving throws against being charmed and being put to sleep magically. I believe Elf has that as well. Same type of deal. The human, again, is a very, very strong option here because you do have access to the Civil Militia. Lets you put on light armor and proficiency with shields. We won't really be using the light armor as much, but the shields are really cool. And you never know, you might find a set of light armor that you like. You can throw it on. I know a lot of people don't really like the Githyanki as far as like a playable class, but they're very strong. You get the cool racial abilities from the Githyanki as you level. You also get this insanely powerful astral knowledge. And on top of that, you get access to medium armor, which is very powerful. You could do quite a few variations on this build and be able to really get even more out of it as you're leveling. And now Dwarf is a really cool option as well, for the same reason as the Tiefling, the Elf, the Drow, but you are a little slower. That's the downside of it. Let's go into Half Elf. You again get that Fey Ancestry advantage and the Civil Militia. So honestly, Half Elf would probably be like my number 1 or number 2 option, because you kind of get the best of both worlds. You get the best of human and the best of elf. Halflings are honestly cool as crap. They do have a little bit less of a racial speed, but hey, if you hit enough people with Ray of Frost, they have a lower speed as well, so that'd be a kind of cool little bonus. Gnomes are also a really neat race to run. With the gnome, you can get advantage on all your saving throws. So if you're going to run something like the Risky Ring and do the crit version of it, maybe you want to run the Gnome. That way you can get advantage on all your saving throws, and even though the ring gives you disadvantage on all the saving throws, you just basically net out. The way that it works in D&D is that the two will cancel each other out, and that way you'll just have normal saves for most of the other stuff. Dragonborn, always really cool. It's really thematic too. You can just hop in, do a white Dragonborn. You got Frostbeth. You're already resistant to cold damage. It could be a really cool thematic thing, even though this one looks kind of weird. And then finally, you've got Half-Orc. It's again got the good move speed. It can see in the dark. And it has the really cool Relentless Endurance where you just stand up instead of dying for the first time. Also, you do have Savage Attacks. This might be another great option if you want to run the Risky Ring. That way you can deal an extra dice of damage. But it's not going to really do that much because we are just running a D6 weapon. So it's not super powerful, you know what I mean? You're not getting a lot of value out of it. It's not like running around with a big battle axe where you throw another D12 at something. Anyway, so that being said, I think I'm gonna hop into running this. If I were to choose right now, I'd probably just go Half Elf. Before I forget, guys, you can also run this as any of the named characters. I think Asterian's a really good option. Especially because he's got his other stuff later on, like his Bite is a really cool ability. Lae'zel is a good option for this as well. Like I said, they get Githyanki and all their cool bonuses work really well with this. Gale already being kind of magic oriented is a good choice, and he gets access to having shields right off the bat. Shadowheart thematically is a little harder for me to bring together, but we are doing a little dip into Cleric, so maybe she has a little bit of Cleric, and then you picked up some Warlock packed abilities along the way, and then, oh no, we discovered, hey, she got her memory back, she's also Sorcerer. What are the odds? I don't know. Put it all together, see what you got. That being said, Karlach's, to me, it doesn't really fit the Karlach story very well. So yeah, she gets angry, hot, and likes to do fire damage. We're doing cold damage, kind of the opposite. So that's the only one I wouldn't recommend. But hey, if you want to do a Zerial Tiefling Karlach that does cold damage, go ahead and do it. There's no reason not to. My personal favorite, I like to put this build on Will all the time. He's already a Warlock. We're going to start Warlock. It just goes together too easy for me to want to put anything else on him. I also love the way that his storyline plays out, and I just feel like this is a lot of like ability to run with the story. Finally, Dark Urge is cool, but again, it's got its own story. You can do whatever you want. So honestly, any of these classes and characters are going to be great for you. Like I said, I'll probably go half elf. Some of these videos that you see are some of the builds that I'm just retrofitting to different characters. Okay, so for our first level, I went ahead and selected Sorcerer. The reason behind this is Sorcerers get proficiency in Constitution saving throws as well as Charisma. If you start Warlock, I believe you're going to get Charisma and Wisdom instead. And I just really like being able to already be proficient in Constitution saving throws, just help maintain concentration. So that being said, we're going to go ahead and select 4 cantrips. Pretty much choose whatever you want. The only one you really want to take though is Ray of Frost. I also like Shocking Grasp for being in melee combat. You can use it pretty often, especially if you need to move away from something or reposition on something else. You can use like a quick and Shocking Grasp to do that and then attack the higher priority target. Friends is another must-have for me, especially if this is your main character. It's just great to have friends, pass all those little checks. And then finally, let's go ahead and go with Minor Illusion. Bone Chill is another good option. As well as, honestly, this is one of the builds where I really like Poison Spray. The reason being is it is a higher damage ability, and you don't normally get to use it because you're not normally in melee. So it's kind of a cool chance to take it when you normally wouldn't take it. But Bone Chill or Minor Illusion are really good. Let's go ahead and take Minor Illusion and go from there. So for our 2 spells, we're going to definitely choose Chromatic Orb for our first spell. For our second spell, it's really dealer's choice here. I think I'm going to go ahead and grab Magic Missile. So that'll bring us to our subclass. For our subclass, Draconic Sorcery is just a must take. And the reason why, you get extra HP, you get an extra armor class bonus. So you basically count as having... You get an armor class bonus, so you basically count as having... You get an armor class bonus, so you basically count as having mage armor on at all times. For our Draconic Ancestry, we have 2 options. So you can either choose white and pick up Armor Agathos, or you can pick silver to go ahead and get Featherfall. It's really up to you. I'm going to go ahead and grab silver, and the reason being is because I know I'm about to go into Warlock and pick up the Armor Agathos and the next spell level, or the next character level, excuse me. None of that matters. So for your abilities, the most important part here is that we're going to go ahead and max out Charisma. We're going to want to get our Charisma as high as possible for this build. You'll see that it's very important for a lot of our builds, or a lot of our damage, that we have our Charisma as high as possible. You'll be surprised at how often you use it. The next thing I want to do is bring my Constitution up as high as possible in order to allow for those increased saving throws. I'm then going to put 14 points into Dexterity and 2 points into Wisdom. Yeah, that means my Intelligence is at -1. You could also pull a couple points out of Con here and bump up your Intelligence and your Wisdom if you'd like to do that. This is a little bit of a safer bet, but you'll have a little bit less HP. We're going to go ahead and run with this. For your skills, use whatever you want. I really like Deception and Intimidation because it just helps me get out of all these things. Any conversation I'm having is almost more important to have these advantage or these bonuses on rolls to help get out of social situations than it would be to have something like Acrobatics in combat. All right. All right, with that being said, that brings us to the level up process. For our first level, we want to go ahead and multi-class immediately into Warlock. And if you're leveling this way, it's also fine to just start out as Warlock and then either later in the game switch and respec whenever you wanted to change some stuff, or you can just keep Warlock as your starting ability as well. It's not a terrible idea. You get proficiency in Wisdom as opposed to Constitution. Wisdom has some value and where Constitution doesn't. It's really personal preference at this point in time. So we're hopping into Warlock here. You do get 2 cantrips. We're going to go ahead and choose Eldritch Blast just for those times where we find something that's cold immune or something that we can't do anything, you can't do any damage to that. And then for my second cantrip, I'm going to go ahead and choose Poison Spray because, like I said, you don't get to use it very often, and it kind of gives you an opportunity to use it every now and then. It's not going to be super reliable, and you're not going to use it a lot, but hey, it's a fun little ability. For our subclass, the Fiend is what I think is the best option here because you get the Dark One Blessing, so you'll increase your temporary HP by whatever your Warlock level is plus your Charisma bonus. So you see it's here, it says 4 temp HP. That's because we have a Charisma bonus of 3 and our Warlock level would be 1. So it starts to build up as you go through. Great Old One is another really good one. We can critically hit decently, and you can also put a few items on to make your critical hit even higher. So being able to cause fear pretty often is a nice little thing. Archfey to me falls flat. I'm not a huge fan of it, and I honestly wouldn't pick it up. So we're going to go Fiend here. For our 2 spells, we're definitely taking Armor Agathis. The second one is a little more flexible. Most people would take Hellish Rebuke, but in this build you probably don't want to take it because you'll see that chilled characters are resistant to fire damage. Chilled or wet are resistant. I'm going to go ahead and take Hex because Hex is better in this build because we'll have Sorcerer spell lots that we could use to cast Hex as we get higher in level, so we don't have to waste our precious Warlock spell slots in order to cast a level 1 spell. Witch Bolt's also a really good option because if you make things wet, they'll take double lightning damage as well as double cold damage. So moving on up to our character level 3, and we're going to see we're just going to level through Warlock here. So as we level up, we get our second spell slot. Now we get another spell. So like I said, we're going to go ahead and grab this. We'll grab that Witch Bolt, and we're going to get our 2 Eldritch Invocations. Now, Agonizing Blast, I try to keep myself away from this because if I take Agonizing Blast, I find that I end up using Eldritch Blast way too much. It is extremely useful though in some fights. If you're on Honor Bone, I really recommend it. There's certain fights that you're just going to want to go ahead and use Eldritch Blast, especially with the armor that we're going to be wearing. It's just going to be very useful. So we're going to go ahead and select it. And then for our second build, or our second selection, I'm going to choose Devil Sight. Devil Sight to me is just so strong. Being able to, let's go and see if it'll actually show it to me. Being able to see in both magical and other darkness up to a distance of 80 feet is very powerful, especially if you're a human and you can't see in the dark. It kind of fills that hole for you, and that way you're not getting disadvantaged when you're real far away from certain things in the Underdark. With that being said, you definitely don't want Armor Shadows because we already have it on, basically. Beguiling Influence is really good, but there's ways to get expertise later in the game in both Deception and Persuasion, and we probably already have proficiency in them. So it's kind of whatever. Fiendish Vigor is cool that you get the 7 temp HP, but you're going to commonly be getting temp HP from other things. You'll notice now that we're Warlock level 2, we're getting 5 temp HP every time we kill something. So, I mean, we're basically going to quickly outdo this Fiendish Vigor. I mean, in 2 levels we're going to have it. Honestly, yeah, 2 levels will be stronger than that. Other than that, the rest of them I'm not a huge fan of. So let's hit accept. Let's go on to our level 3 again. Like I said, we're continuing up through these Warlock levels. We get some more HP. Look at that. Our spell slots go to level 2. We get to choose a spell slot, and I am a giant fan of Darkness. It's one of my favorite spells. I won't say it breaks the game, but the AI really struggle with how to deal with Darkness. They just don't understand how to attack a creature inside of it, and you'll see that a lot of times if you're on one side of Darkness, they'll try to shoot through it, and it immediately stops the arrows. Very powerful. Another good option is Misty Step, Hold Person, Invisibility. Again, pretty much dealer's choice at this level. Most important part is that you do choose the Pact of the Blade. Like I said, the Pact of the Blade, or the Charisma bonus, is going to be very important for you. And you'll see here, now that you have a Pact of the Blade, you're using your spellcasting ability modifier to attack, and your weapons are considered magical at this point in time. So it's way more important that you have a high charisma than you do have a high strength or dexterity at this point in time. So now you're using your charisma to attack with. So basically at this point in time, you're all charisma based. Your spells are charisma, your attacks are charisma, right? Let's go ahead and continue through that. When we hit 5th level, or Warlock 4, we're going to get our first feat. The downside of this build is we are only getting 2 feats. So, I mean, that's exactly what you want if that's... That's exactly as many feet as you want if you're walking around, but that's exactly as many feet as you want when you're walking around, but in Dungeons and Dragons, you want as many feet as possible. That way you can get as many ability score increases or ASIs, or as many cool little bonuses to help you out. So for your spell, like I said, we're going to go ahead and grab Misty Step here. Cantrip, again, just choose whatever you want. I'm sure we'll grab Bone Chill, and we go into feat. You would definitely want to start off with an ASI. Okay, so we're going to select Charisma here. Power that up. That'll give us another bonus to our Charisma. So you'll see now it's at +4. That means every time we hit something, it's doing an extra damage. It's a nice upgrade for us. Alright, as we go into our character level 6 or our Warlock level 5, you'll see we finally get our Pact feature. So now we get extra attack. We're just like all the martial classes. We're swinging twice. At this point in time, you get another spell. This is where I would pick up Hunger of Hadar. Hunger of Hadar does do cold damage and acid damage, just depending if they get stuck in there or not. So they take cold at the start of their turn, and then acid at the end of their turn if they fail a save, I believe. One thing that's really nice about Hunger of Hadar that people kind of forget about or sleep on this ability is they are blinded. You can drop this down and just completely section off a part of the fight. So if you're in, like, we'll say an L-shaped alleyway, instead of having 2 fronts you're fighting, if you're in the back corner, you can just put Hunger of Hadar on all the enemies on the left-hand side, and now they're all funneling up through this way. They're trying to get through. They can't see. They have difficult terrain as they're trying to get to you, and they're taking damage. It really just allows you to control the battlefield and be that tactical warlock that's being able to shut off one side of the battlefield. Also, at level 5, we're going to get another invocation. It's really up to you what you want to take here. I'm a big fan of Mire the Mind, and the reason being is Slow is a really nice 4th level spell, gives you access to it once, I believe it's once per day. No, it's actually just a Warlock spell slot, which is even better. So you'll get Slow, you'll be able to hit up to 6 creatures and slow them. It's pretty nice. I lied, it is a level 3 transmutation spell, but it is a really good spell, and it works really well to help control the battlefield, and that's really what we want to do with this character. Okay, as we go into our 7th level, you'll see that we would be getting Dark One's Luck, but I want to go ahead and switch back to Sorcerer. If we bounce back into Sorcerer, every level of Sorcerer, we're going to get an additional sorcery point. And now that we're level 2 in Sorcerer, we'll be able to create sorcery points and create spell slots, which is really nice here because what you can do, I'll show you here in a second, but you can Alright, so as we go into our 7th level, you'll see that we would be getting Dark One's Luck, which allows us to add a d10 to an ability check. Now that's nice, but it's not amazing. So what I want to do is go into Sorcerer at this point in time. And you'll see that every level of Sorcerer, we're going to get an additional sorcery point. At this point in time as well, we are getting the 2 abilities to create sorcery points and create spell slots. I'll show you how that works here in a minute with the Warlock spell slots. And that's another reason why this class is leveling with this class is a really nice setup, and it's very powerful throughout the entire game. So we do get to choose another spell. Again, this is somewhat dealer's choice. I'm going to take Shield because I love using Shield later on. Enhanced Leap is super useful. Expeditious Retreat, or you could just go ahead and take Ice Knife. It is an ice ability, really cool little thing. And you'll see that basically if we could have, or if we already have the spell elsewhere, it'll tell us ahead of time. So you'll be able to see what you have as you're leveling up. We're also going to get class passives, which is our meta magic. So for me, I'm a big fan of Twin Spell. The build kind of runs off being able to hit 2 targets, and it actually excels when you only have those 2 targets that you're going against. I mean, it does well against AoE and a bunch of units, but it really does well when you have 2 targets, or maybe even 3 big targets that you want to keep hitting. On top of that, you could take Careful, Distant, or Extended. I don't normally find that Extended is super useful. I do like Distant, and one of the reasons why is you can spend 1 sorcery point, and now you can step pretty far back and hit someone and basically get a surprise attack off on someone. Additionally, if you have, let's say, a friend in a precarious position, you could twin cast a Shocking Touch, and now they have, or not twin cast, sorry, distant spell a Shocking Touch, and now if the spell hits them, your buddy can walk away from that and do whatever he needed to do. Alright, so then we're going on into our 8th level here. So this is where we get our 3rd level of Sorcerer spell. We'll also get our level 2 Sorcerer spells. Again, these are pretty much dealer's choice. If you don't have anyone to open locks, maybe it's a good time to pick up Knock. Invisibility to sneak up. Hold Person's another great option. Or if you don't have anyone with enhanced ability to help you kind of get through some of these skill checks, that's a great option as well. This is a combat focused build, so I'm going to go ahead and grab Hold Person. Just because it's so amazing. Once you hold, once you get a person locked up in combat, it's very powerful. Additionally, you could quicken a Hold Person and then just use your 2 attacks to just do insane massive damage. Alright, at this point in time, you kind of roll into your next meta magic option. You'll see we have different options here now. So we also pick up Heightened, Quickened, or Subtle. Those are our 3 things to choose from. Heightened is really nice. It gives them disadvantage on their saving throw, which is really good, especially if you're trying to target a boss with Hold Person. It might make him lose his legendary resistance, especially in honor mode. Quicken Spell allows you to spend 3 sort points, and then your next spell cast a bonus action instead of an action, which is amazing. That's what I'm going to actually take. And then Subtle Spell, not as useful, but allows you to cast spells while silenced. It costs 1 sorcery point. I would recommend doing that if you're having trouble with people silencing you all the time, but Quicken Spell is really what this build's going to run off of. So let's continue on through the levels. So level 9, we're going to get our second, what do you call it? Our second feat. Alright, you get another cantrip again. Just choose really what you want. We'll go ahead and grab Mage Hand, sure. And an additional spell. I don't know if we have invisibility yet, so I don't see it on my list, so we'll go ahead and grab that as well. And like I said, our additional feat. So for this build, I'm going to grab an ASI and push this to 20. Now, let's say you have the Hag's Hair and you already have an ASI of 20, or you already have a Charisma of 20, excuse me, or some other bonus that gives you a +1 to your Charisma somehow. Well, at that point in time, you have a lot of different options that you could run with. So, since you're a human, you're already proficient with light armor, you could just go ahead and hit moderately armored. If you were going to do this, I would say put another point into your dexterity, or maybe take a point out of your dexterity, and put those 2 points into something like intelligence, so you're at 13, 14, 12, 12, 20, and then when you put this point in, it bumps your dexterity up to 14. If you do that, then you can wear medium armor. There's not a whole lot of medium armor that's really, really good. I'm a big fan of, where's it at? Spell Sniper. Spell Sniper does really well with this build. It reduces the number where you need to roll for a crit hit by 1. So at that point in time, you're going to be critting more often, right? So we're going to have, you're critting on a 20 normally, right? You could drink a potion. Now you're critting on a 19. You have Spell Sniper, you're critting on 18. You have the bow. Okay, now we're critting on 17s. Now we're talking, right? So Spell Sniper's a really good option. Alternatively, you could take Elemental Adept. You could choose Cold, and the way that works is you can have a roll of 1 on damage, and then you ignore resistance to it as well. Lucky's another great feat. You get advantage on a spell or something if you'd like, or you could use your luck point to gain advantage on the next saving throw. Alternatively, if you don't want to select ability improvement because the other point's going to go to waste, you could just select actor here. Actor will put your charisma up to 20, and that's what we're going to actually do in this scenario. Just so you guys can see, and look, you get deception and performance ×2. All right. Ooh, going into our 10th level now. We are going to continue up through Sorcerer because now we get level 3 spell slots. And this is where we start getting some of the best spells in the game. So, okay, so before I level any further, I want to go ahead and show you guys this before I start getting Sorcerer level 3 spell slots. This is a trick that you can do in order to gain more sorcery points. So let's say you've got a big fight coming up, right? We are currently level 9. We got our Pact Weapon bound. We would like to create some extra sorcery points so we can do more things in the upcoming fight. So what you do is you go in here, you hit create sorcery points, and you see when you select level 3, it starts to highlight your Warlock spell slots. Now what you can do is you can create these sorcery points. We'll do it again. So now I'm starting to fight with, instead of 4, but 10 sorcery points. And then to get them back, all you gotta do is take a short rest.
Better than nothing.
Here I go.
So now we're at 10 sorcery points and we have both of our spell slots back. Okay, going into our 10th level, we're going to choose our 5th level up Sorcerer. We are going to get level 3 spell slots. Now, what I just showed you with being able to pull sorcery points out of your spell slots, it will prioritize your Sorcerer spell slots before it will use your Warlock spell slots. So, that being said, at the start of the day, you might want to just go ahead and burn all your Sorcerer spell slots and then use your Warlock spell slots like normal. Once you get a rest, or if you're right before you rest, go ahead and use the remaining Warlock spell slots that way, because you know you're going to get them back, and that just helps you build up sorcery points. So I'm going to go ahead and take haste here. Haste works really well on this build, even in honor mode, because what it allows you to do is you're hasted. Like say you got haste off before a fight. You can basically so let's say you got haste off before a fight. You go into that first turn, you have 2 actions and a bonus action. You use your quicken spell to get away with some sort of quicken spell, right? So you use a quickened so going into your 10th level, we're going to go ahead and unlock our level 3 spell slots. We're also going to unlock an additional sorcery point, and you're able to use level 3 spells again from the sorcerer list, which is really nice. So there's some great ones: counter spell, haste, of course, lightning bolt, fireball, all great options. Sleet storm if you want to continue on with the cold build, but my go-to is going to be haste. You are a great candidate for haste, and I'll kind of explain why when I do the build a little later. Alright, so for our 6th sorcerer level, this is where we start making money here, guys. So we get another sorcery point just like earlier, and we get another level 3 spell slot, but we also get elemental damage affinity. So what that allows us to do is every time we do damage with a spell or a cantrip, we're gonna go ahead and add our charisma bonus to it, which our charisma bonus is currently +5. So any cantrip, any cold spell does an extra +5 damage. We can also spend a sword point and get resistance to cold, which is a nice little bonus. It's not super impactful, but some enemies don't have resistance to cold, and they do cold damage, so could be useful there. For our second spell, I'm going to go ahead and choose Counterspell, again because my Warlock spell slots are level 3, so I use them freely in a fight. That means most of the time I'm going to save these for Counterspell or Haste, so my level 3 spell slots are normally a Haste and a Counterspell, and then I've got my Sorcerer spell slots if those are still remaining as well. Alright, for our last level, I kind of hemmed and hawed with what we can do. So you could pick up another sorcery level, but the only thing we're getting it from that is 1 sorcery's point and another spell. And the 4th level spells for Sorcerer are okay, but because you're not going to want to use something like Wall of Fire, Stone Skin's good if you want resistance to bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing. That's a really good option. But we do get a lot of temp HP, so you find that you really don't need. I mean, you might want it in some fights, but again, you probably won't need it. Ice Storm is a really nice ability, but as you see, the damage is split between bludgeoning and cold. And we only get bonuses to the cold part of it. So it's just not as useful. And again, our build doesn't do well with Blight or Banishment. We don't have a lot of bonuses or anything like that. So like I said, I kind of played with that one a bit. I looked up into maybe picking a couple levels of Bard, played around with a few different options. We could pick up Monk for some extra little things. I kind of played around with a bunch, but I think I landed on Cleric being one of the best options. The reason being is you would get guidance and some other bonuses here, but the real money maker is it allows you to be very flexible. You could take Life, War, or Tempest Domain, or I think Nature as well. Yeah, all give you access to heavy armor at that point in time. So now you don't have to worry about being a human to carry a shield, most importantly. And you could, if you don't have the Portent Robe, you could pick up a different set of heavy armor, and it'll make you much tankier. Most of the other things don't matter a ton. But you do get access to a couple of different healing spells, allow you to throw out a healing word to maybe save an ally, or sanctuary yourself. If this is a solo run, Cleric's really powerful because now you can use your bonus action at the end of the turn to sanctuary yourself, and then the enemies can't hit you. Then you can come back with a bunch of stuff. So we'll go ahead and select Cleric here. For my domain, we're going to go ahead and choose War. And then, of course, for our deity, we got to do it. We've got to go ahead and choose Mystra here. Alright, going into gear, I have what I think is the best set of gear that you could possibly put on for this build. I think it looks really cool. Definitely looks like a Gish style warrior. For our helmet, we want Birthright. +2 to our charisma is huge because that adds an extra damage to all of our cantrips, all of our attacks, all of our cold spells. It's just an insane amount of utility for us. It also is giving you a +1 to hit with your spells and +1 to your spell save DCs. I think this hat is by far the best option you could wear. If you don't have Birthright or you can't get it yet, some good options early on in the game, you can get the Cold Brim hat. It gives Cold Brim Chill, so once per turn when you inflict a condition, you also inflict Encrusted with Frost, which gives people disadvantaging on dex saving throws. The other part, don't worry about it, it never happens. There's a chance they take cold damage and they become frozen. They might take some cold damage, they never get frozen. The Helmet of Arcane Acuity is really good too because you're attacking twice, and that's adding bonuses to your spell slots. So if you don't, bonuses to your casting ability. So if you don't have Birthright, this you get in Act 2, and I'd say wear this for as long as you can. The way that it works is when you do an attack, you get 2 stacks of this Arcane Acuity. So that means +2 to hit with your spells and +2 to your spell save DCs. But if you get hit, you lose 2 stacks of it. So it's kind of tough for us to not get hit. We do have a decent AC, but we don't have an amazing AC, so we're getting hit pretty often. Our cloak, I have the Cloak of Protection here to just help with this armor class a bit and really push up our saving throws. Another really good option for cloaks is the Cloak of Elemental Absorption. This allows you to take half damage from a spell, and you can do that damage with your weapon attack next time. For our chest piece, The Portent Robe is just amazing for this build. It allows you to add your Charisma modifier, like we talked about how important this is, to all of your cantrips. And then at the start of your turn, you also get temporary HP equal to your Charisma modifier. So we get 6 temp HP at the start of our turn every round. So other robes that you could wear, I'll go ahead and pop up the Robe of the Weave. Robe of the Weave is a very good option. It allows you to have bonuses to your spells. However, you're not going to get the Charisma bonus and the Charisma temp HP. If you somehow didn't get the Portent Robe, or if you missed in Act 2, go ahead and wear the Robe of the Weave. Additionally, if you're a Gith, you could wear medium armor right out the bat, so you could get something to bring your armor class up a decent amount. So for example, if we were wearing like this Flame Enamored armor, you notice our armor class goes all the way to 21. So going into gloves, there's quite a bit of options early on in the game. You do get bracers of defense really early on, and if you're not a human and you can't hold a shield through your last level, these are a great little option. It basically covers that hole where the shield would normally be. But because we're Will, we can't hold the shield. It looks cool. You get it at the end of Act 2 as well. So I went ahead and wore that, and I've got a different pair of gloves that I'm going to wear. You can also get the Hackney, or however the heck you say that, bracers. These things allow you to cast Mage Hand as a bonus action. Not super important, but it does give you a telekinesis spell once per day, which is really cool. Allows you to throw some enemies around the battlefield before you actually get everything in position. It is concentration, however, so be careful with that. The gloves that I'm wearing are the Quick Spell gloves. Now these give you a minus, excuse me, not the Quick Spell gloves. The gloves I'm wearing, however, are the Quick Spell gloves. These change a cantrip's cost from an action to a bonus action. So when you turn this on, you can then twin spell a cantrip and hit 2 targets, which is just fantastic. It allows us to use our bonus action at the start of the fight to help build our momentum, and you'll see why that's important here in a minute. And this comes back per short rest, and you normally short rest between fights anyways. Another item that you could wear for your gloves is the 18 dexterity gloves. You'll see that it'll really boost your armor class up with everything that I'm wearing here. If I switched out the quick spell gloves for the dexterity gloves, which are a little more consistent, that would give us a dexterity of 18, which will be an extra +2, so we would then have a 21 AC. Another set of gloves you might want to pick up are the Spell Might gloves. You get these from the lady in the Clown Carnival in Act 3, and it allows you to take a -5 penalty and deal an additional 1d8 damage. If you have an extra feat that you wanted to use and you put on Elemental Adept, or maybe for some reason you wanted to go the crit version of this where you're going to wear the Risky Ring, this might be a great option because the Risky Ring kind of covers that -5 to hit, and it allows you to do just a little bit, get a little more damage out of it. Alternatively, you could choose the Gemini gloves as well. That way when you are firing off cantrips, you're not having to twin them the first time. But it does work only once, and I think you need a short rest after that. Alright, for boots, you're going to probably want these Disintegrating Nightwalkers. The reason why I like these is you cannot be unwebbed, entangled, ensnared, and you cannot slip on ice. That's like the most important part. So you do get Misty Step as well. You get these in Act 1, and if you're going to be making ice circles, you might want to not be able to slip on them. Okay, going into our jewelry, this is where you're going to find a lot of the stuff at Act 1 in the Creche. So both of these next 2 items are found there. The Necklace of Elemental Augmentation, you probably were like, well, it's not very useful. Well, we finally found a build that uses it. When you deal damage with one of your cantrips, specifically cold damage here, you add your spellcasting modifier to the damage dealt. Yes, that means you are adding your charisma bonus to the cantrip twice. Once from here, once from here. And then a third time from our sorcerer level 6, as long as it's cold. So your cantrips will do an additional 18 damage, and you'll see how hard they start to hit. I also like the Ring of Elemental Infusion. This one's kind of more of a flavor for me. When you deal cold damage specifically, and using a spell or a cantrip, it then infuses your weapon with an extra 1d8. Most importantly, the last item on here, and this is definitely a required item, is the Ring of Arcane Synergy, and that is when you deal damage with a cantrip, you get Arcane Synergy. That adds our spellcasting modifier, aka our Charisma, or because I messed up this build, it'll be Wisdom, to our weapon attacks. So now our weapon attack will do extra damage. Before I showcase the actual fight, I'll go ahead and respec so I can fix some of these things. Okay, for our ranged weapon, I went ahead and put in the dead shot because you are casting a lot of things that hit and you attack a lot. So therefore, an extra increase to your critical hit, 5% increase, is really powerful. So whenever you can get the dead shot, that's a great option. You can also get the bow out of Act 2 that allows you to have resistance to cold and fire damage and give you haste earlier on in the game. For our main hand weapon, this is the bread and butter. This is what I built the entire build around. It's Morning Frost. You get it in Act 1, so you have it throughout the entire game, and it is a fantastic item. It's going to be able to add an additional 1d4 every time you hit something. That's not from the elemental infusion. It's just a natural 1d4. So it's going to add 2d4 of cold damage when you attack something. So it says 9 to 17 here, but it's really 10 to 21, and then you add your charisma modifier on top of that. So it's now 16 to 27. Also, I'm going to go ahead and throw this up there. I don't have this item on this build, but the Drake Glaive or Drake Throat Glaive, it allows us to cast elemental weapon on another weapon once per day. So that'll add in a third d4 of cold damage, which is really powerful. Finally, a shield for this build is really nice. So we have Kethric's shield here. One of the reasons why we're taking human or Gith. Again, you get a +1 bonus to your spell save DC and attack rolls, and you get a shield, which gives you advantage on your dex saving throws. Any other shield would also be a good option. One of the ones that I wanted to go ahead and point out was the Absolute's Protector. The Absolute's Protector is amazing because it gives you Fire Shield Chill. You get this pretty early on in Act 2, and the chilled damage is really nice. Whenever anyone hits you, they're going to take cold damage back. If you also have Armor of Agathis on, it makes it to where enemies do not want to hit you. So if you're starting to get low or worried about something, and you have Fire Shield Chill already on, you go ahead and use your action to cast Armor Agathis or even quicken an Armor Agathis as high as level as you can. Now enemies don't want to hit you. Basically takes them down off of your aggro radar. Okay, let me go over some other options for rings and necklaces that you could alternate with if you didn't want to use or if you didn't have it yet. Maybe you missed it. Amulet Misty Step to get you around. You want to hang on to this Spellcrux amulet in order to restore some spells, or if someone else has got higher level spell slots, you can give that to them. I really like the advantage on wisdom saving throws, or wisdom and intelligence and charisma saving throws. The Parapet of Wound Closure is another really good option. You actually do technically get a chance to get this before the Elemental Augmentation Necklace. Broodmother's Revenge is another really good option, like super early on in the game, because when you get heals, you can just do a little extra damage on your weapon attacks. Also, Spell Savant is cool for the extra level 2 spell slot. For rings, the Ring of Twilight's really good because you get an extra +1 to your armor class. I'm going to skip this next one. And then we'll go to the Shadow Cloaked Ring. That is plus 1d4 damage if you're obscured, and now you're commonly casting darkness or maybe running through Hunger or Hadar, so you're going to do an extra 1d4 damage there. The Snowburst Ring is a fun item, but it's kind of terrible, especially if you have allies that are in melee. It's really tough to throw this out and run around. If you want to wreak utter havoc, feel free to wear that over the Elemental Infusion. Run in there, you got boots, you can't slip, you're not worried about it, and just make it pain in the butt for everyone. The last two rings are a little more advanced. So the Band of the Mystic Scoundrel is really nice. If you hit someone with a weapon attack, you can then use your bonus action to cast a spell like Fear. If you want to take... If you're running this, you want to take Fear or Illusion and Enchantment based spells. Now those are going to be like Hold Person, Fear, Dissonant Whispers, whatever you can take that'll help you out. And you might want to actually splash a level in Bard to pick up Dissonant Whispers. That way you're attacking. Now I can use a Dissonant Whisper and twin cast Dissonant Whisper. The other ring, the Risky Ring, Gives you advantage on all of your attack rolls, but disadvantage on your saving throws. I would only wear this if you were doing the crit build. So that means you're going to need the dead shot. You might even have the helm that helps you out with an extra +1 to your crit. That way, and you'd have to have the hag's hair as well. So you could take the feat to give you another +1 to your crit. So now you're at a 20 crit. You get the feat, so you're at 19. This gives you 18. The helm gives you 17. Now you're looking at a much higher chance of critting. You drink a potion. Now you have a 20% chance to crit, and that crit is re-rolled. So it's probably around a 35% chance to crit right there. So if you're doing that, you can do a ton more damage. It's really nice little combo, but it is very risky because you do have disadvantage on every one of your saving throws, which means you're just going to be taking a ton of damage. If you do that, I might recommend running this face ambulance amulet, so the disadvantage and advantage will cancel themselves out. So you'll have advantage on int, whiz, charisma, and dexterity from your shield. But you'll also have disadvantage on everything else. So that would put them at normal, and then con and strength would then be at disadvantage. And if you have con at disadvantage, that means you're not going to be able to maintain concentration. Do not cast haste because you'll immediately drop it. Okay, let me go over some other options for rings and necklaces that you could alternate with if you didn't want to use, or if you didn't have it yet. Maybe you missed it. Amulet Misty Step to get you around. You want to hang on to this Spellcrux amulet in order to restore some spells, or if someone else has got higher level spell slots, you can give that to them. I really like the advantage on wisdom saving throws, or wisdom and intelligence and charisma saving throws. The Parapet of Wound Closure is another really good option. You actually do technically get a chance to get this before the Elemental Augmentation Necklace. Broodmother's Revenge is another really good option, like super early on in the game, because when you get heals, you can just do a little extra damage on your weapon attacks. Also, Spell Savant is cool for the extra level 2 spell slot. For rings, the Ring of Twilight's really good because you get an extra +1 to your armor class. I'm going to skip this next one. And then we'll go to the Shadow Cloaked Ring. That is plus 1d4 damage if you're obscured, and now you're commonly casting darkness or maybe running through Hunger or Hadar, so you're going to do an extra 1d4 damage there. The Snowburst Ring is a fun item, but it's kind of terrible, especially if you have allies that are in melee. It's really tough to throw this out and run around. If you want to wreak utter havoc, feel free to wear that over the Elemental Infusion. Run in there, you got boots, you can't slip, you're not worried about it, and just make it pain in the butt for everyone. The last two rings are a little more advanced. So the Band of the Mystic Scoundrel is really nice. If you hit someone with a weapon attack, you can then use your bonus action to cast a spell like Fear. If you want to if you're running this, you want to take Fear or Illusion and enchantment based spells. Now those are going to be like Hold Person, Fear, Dissonant Whispers, whatever you can take that'll help you out. And you might want to actually splash a level in Bard to pick up Dissonant Whispers. That way you're attacking. Now I can use a Dissonant Whisper and twin cast Dissonant Whisper. The other ring, the Risky Ring, gives you advantage on all of your attack rolls, but disadvantage on your saving throws. I would only wear this if you were doing the crit build. So that means you're going to need the dead shot. You might even have the helm that helps you out with an extra +1 to your crit. That way, and you'd have to have the hag's hair as well. So you could take the feat to give you another +1 to your crit. So now you're at a 20 crit. You get the feat, so you're at 19. This gives you 18. The helm gives you 17. Now you're looking at a much higher chance of critting. You drink a potion. Now you have a 20% chance to crit, and that crit is re-rolled. So it's probably around a 35% chance to crit right there. So if you're doing that, you can do a ton more damage. It's really nice little combo, but it is very risky because you do have disadvantage on every one of your saving throws, which means you're just going to be taking a ton of damage. If you do that, I might recommend running this face ambulance amulet, so the disadvantage and advantage will cancel themselves out. So you'll have advantage on int, whiz, charisma, and dexterity from your shield. but you'll also have disadvantage on everything else. So that would put them at normal, and then con and strength would then be at disadvantage. And if you have con at disadvantage, that means you're not going to be able to maintain concentration. Do not cast haste because you'll immediately drop it. Alright, so I want to go ahead and do a demonstration of the fight and how it goes. I did make a couple mistakes earlier. I was messing around with it. I had used some bonuses, and I had messed up everything going on, so I don't have an armor agathis on myself. I was going to use a level 4 spell slot. Just pretend like I wasted it for now. And I can't use quick spell flinger. So what I would normally do is use a bonus action cantrip in order to, and also twin it in order to hit 2 targets. So instead, we're going to open with a regular Ray of Frost cantrip. Now the reason why we open with the cantrip
assaulting someone
is because it gives us both of our bonuses. Hold Infusion and Arcane Synergy. We are going to use a lot of spell slots on shield, so we go ahead and shield here. And as you can see, I don't have all my resources here, so I'm trying to do this as like how a fight would go. Again, this is on tactician mode. And we have quite a few enemies here, so this shouldn't be a fight that we should easily win, right? Also with this build, scrolls are really nice because you can't get Cone of Cold any other way, unless maybe you took the Legendary Staff. I honestly don't like it as much as Morning Frost. I think Morning Frost just ends up turning out better for us. Alright, so what are we going to do here? This guy's at 80, there's a 68. Alright, so you see we get 6 temp HP at the start of our turn. I think what we're gonna do is just go ahead and hit one of these guys here. You can see we do quite a bit of damage because it does add in our bonuses twice. We could also topple a creature too to do a ton more damage. But what we're gonna do is finish our attacks, and I'm gonna try to reposition a bit in order to make them come to me and fight on my territory. Apparently I get an extra attack now for some reason. Okay, solid. Alright, so we have moved up and we have shielded ourselves, so our armor class is currently 26, so not a lot of things are hitting us. We are getting hit by critical hits. We're getting pretty low here. Obviously this is a tough fight. We have quite a few enemies. One more hit and we might be dead. Alright, we got the dash out of this guy. So now we're in a good position. Our enemies are in front of us. We are going to use our bonus action to drink a potion. So we are not in as bad as a position. And what we're going to try to do here is basically fight our way out of all these little guys. So I'm going to go ahead and try to kill him first. Oh man, we can't hit to save our lives today. 80% is not working for us. There we go. So as you can see, we do quite a bit of damage. I forgot to cantrip before this, but I had to heal up, so. Alright, and with us killing him, you'll see we get 5 temp HP and a whole nother action. It doesn't look like I'm going to take a reaction, so what I'm going to do is again try to get more distance between me and the enemy. And we're going to twin. Oh man. Did I go too far? Have I gone too far? Alright, looks like we can still hit. So we're going to twin spell a cantrip here. So remember, this is no invest except for 1 sorcery point. And we do 82 damage with 1 sorcery point. I'll go ahead and leave it on the screen real quick so you can see where it's coming from. But it is an insane amount of damage. On top of that, now they are afflicted with Ray of Frost, so they're going to move slower. This guy's even chilled, so the next time I hit him, he's taking double damage. Alright, well in turn, let them come after us. Because of the movement difficulties, they're not going to be able to make it up to us. Also, because we have 1 level in War Cleric, we can also use our bonus action to attack should we need to. Alright, so we are going to, you see Ray of Frost has now fallen off. The first thing I would like to do is we're going to go ahead and we're going to Ray of Frost some stuff again. I want to hit this guy and the guy that's not going to come to me. Alright, as you see, he takes, instead of that, 66 cold damage because he is now vulnerable to cold. Additionally, what we could do is, yeah, that's what we'll do. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to, oh, I can't actually do that. So what we're going to do for our second action is we are going to create or destroy water. We'll do it as a level 2. It's pretty far away from us. So you can do this, and what it'll do is increase the damage that they're going to take. So in this scenario, it's not a really good spot, so we'll show you what it does here in a little bit. Instead, we're just going to continue on throwing cantrips at people. Go ahead and hit another twin. And that guy in the back's chilled. Oh, 62 damage on a cantrip. We end up missing on the close one. What I'm going to do now is we're going to move back up. We're going to expend one of my things. And as you notice, I'm not getting an additional 1d4. So I should be getting 3d4, but I don't have the weapon for the other one. We do have an additional attack. I could use Hex at any point in time if we wanted to. Again, I put myself in bad positions, don't have any of my other spell slots, so I didn't want to do that. We do feel the shield blow, not a big deal. For our bonus action, we can use an attack because we have War Priest, those are per day. We can actually topple. That's one thing that's really nice with this. He saved it here, but you can knock people prone and then reposition on the battlefield, which is really nice. Alright, like I said, if we needed to reposition, we could then Shocking Grasp. If you're on Honor mode, you want to use your first action to attack because that's the only one that's going to get the extra attacks. You want to hit once, and then you'll be able to deal with this, right? I'm going to drink a potion just in case. I don't want to die here when he hits me. A lot of honey is fine. And then we're going to walk away from him. You'd be able to cantrip him. And if it didn't kill him, I could walk back up if I had to and hit him again. Or, you know, you could do this with multiple different targets.